The vast chamber of the Galactic Council stretched impossibly high, its ceiling lost in darkness. Ambassador Michael Reed stood alone on the circular platform, surrounded by tiers of alien representatives from over 5,000 worlds. The air felt cold against his skin, deliberately so, he suspected. The Council's subtle intimidation tactics were well documented in the briefing files. "Human representative," boomed the voice of Grand Counselor Vexen, a massive being whose 6 eyes blinked in unsynchronized patterns across a face that resembled polished obsidian. "You stand before the oldest governing body in known space. For 8 million cycles we have maintained peace and order among civilized species." Michael fought to keep his face neutral despite the overwhelming spectacle. Holographic displays floated everywhere, showing close-ups of bizarre alien faces watching him with everything from curiosity to obvious contempt. Some delegates existed in specialized environmental chambers, others as pure energy contained in crystalline matrices. The diversity was staggering. "The Council has deliberated on Earth's petition for recognition," Vexen continued, mandibles clicking between words. "We find your application concerning." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Michael noticed Ambassador Trellix of the Arcturian Confederation lean forward with interest. The Arcturians had been Earth's first contact 5 years ago, and had sponsored humanity's petition to join the galactic community. "Concerning in what way, Grand Counselor?" Michael asked, his voice steady despite the pressure of representing 8 billion humans to this ancient assembly. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing Earth's solar system. It zoomed in on the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, highlighting the quantum research stations that humanity had established there. "Your species has achieved quantum consciousness technology in merely 8 decades since discovering nuclear fusion," said Counselor Lathrix, a serpentine being whose translucent skin revealed shifting organs beneath. "Such rapid advancement is unprecedented and dangerous. Michael had been warned this might happen. Earth's breakthroughs in quantum consciousness, the ability to store human thoughts in quantum fields and transfer them across vast distances instantaneously, had been their ticket to the stars. But apparently it also made the Council nervous. "With respect, counselors," Michael responded, "our advancement rate is a testament to human ingenuity, not a threat. We seek only peaceful exchange and to learn from older civilizations." "Your words are diplomatic, but your actions suggest otherwise," Vexen replied. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's defense grid. "These weapons platforms surrounding your homeworld exceed defensive requirements by 300%. Your military vessels are designed for offensive capability." "Merely precautions," Michael countered. "Until recently we believed ourselves alone in the universe. Old habits of self-protection are not easily abandoned." A new voice joined the conversation, softer but somehow more penetrating. "Perhaps we should consider what humanity does not know." All eyes turned to Counselor Mera, whose species resembled luminous jellyfish floating in specialized gravity pods. The Laresian collective was rumored to be among the oldest council members. "Human," Mera addressed Michael directly, "your species has not been told of. The quantum restrictions established after the consciousness wars. Your technology approaches forbidden patterns that once devastated 17 systems. This was new information." Michael's neural implant was silently recording everything for analysis back on Earth. But he needed to respond now, without guidance. "Counselor Mera, we cannot be held accountable for laws we were never informed of," Michael said. "If quantum restrictions exist, Earth will comply once properly briefed. We have no desire to repeat mistakes of the past." "A reasonable position," acknowledged Counselor Trellix, Earth's Arcturian ally. "I remind the Council that under Statute 793, newly contacted species must be given a full technological briefing before restrictions can be enforced." The Grand Counselor's 6 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of irritation Michael had learned. "The Arcturian position is noted. However, the Council has another concern." The holographic display changed again, showing data streams that Michael recognized immediately. The quantum consciousness signatures of Earth's global network, the one that connected every human mind that opted into the planetary thought-sharing system. "This consciousness network," Vexen stated, "has unusual properties not seen in other species' attempts at similar technology. It appears to be self-reinforcing." Michael felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. Earth's scientists had only recently discovered this property themselves, that human consciousness, when linked in sufficient numbers, created emergent patterns that strengthened the network beyond theoretical limits. We are still studying these properties ourselves, Michael admitted carefully, but they appear to be unique to human neurology. Indeed, said Mara, her luminous form pulsing with what might have been concern. Which brings us to the Council's decision. The chamber fell silent. Thousands of alien representatives watched intently. Humanity will be granted provisional recognition, announced Grand Counselor Vexen. However, all quantum consciousness research must cease immediately. Council observers will be stationed in your system to ensure compliance. Your defense grid will be reduced by 60%. These measures are non-negotiable. Michael's diplomatic training hadn't prepared him for terms this severe. Grand Counselor, these restrictions would effectively end humanity's most promising technological field and leave Earth vulnerable. May I ask what threat the Council believes we pose to justify such measures? The threat of the unknown, replied Vexen. Species that advance too quickly typically self-destruct or destabilize neighboring systems. We merely ensure galactic stability. Michael noticed something in that moment, a subtle exchange of glances between Vexen and several other counselors. His instincts, honed through years of Earth's most delicate negotiations, sensed deception. Before Earth agrees to these terms, Michael said, making a split-second decision, I invoke Article 12 of the Council Charter, the right of new members to request external verification of Council claims. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Ambassador Trellick shot Michael a warning look. You know of Article 12? Vexen asked, genuinely surprised. The Arcturians provided full access to the Charter, Michael replied. Though in truth, Article 12 had been discovered by Earth's AI systems analyzing patterns in seemingly unrelated diplomatic documents. If our quantum technology truly poses the threat you claim, external verification should confirm this. Unless there's another reason for your restrictions. The council chamber grew tense. Michael had essentially accused them of lying, a diplomatic gamble that could end disastrously. After a long silence, Counselor Mira spoke. The human invokes valid council law. We must grant the verification. Vexen's obsidian face remained unreadable, but the stiffening of his posture revealed his displeasure. Very well. The verification will be conducted by neutral parties. Until then, Earth's provisional status remains pending. As Michael was escorted from the chamber, Ambassador Trellix fell into step beside him in the massive hallway. That was either brilliantly brave or suicidally foolish. The Arcturian whispered, No new species has invoked Article 12 in 7,000 cycles. Something isn't right, Michael replied quietly. They're too interested in our consciousness network. And did you notice how they already had detailed scans of our technology? How would they have obtained those? Trellix's facial tentacles writhed anxiously. Be careful, human. The Council never shows all its cards at once. I fear you've drawn unwanted attention. Maybe that's exactly what Earth needed, Michael said. Better to know now if the Council can't be trusted. As they reached the Earth delegation's chambers, Michael received an encrypted transmission from home. The message was brief but alarming. Unusual energy patterns had been detected throughout Earth's quantum network, signs of external scanning at a level beyond known technology. The Council wasn't just restricting Earth's research. They were actively studying it, perhaps even infiltrating it. Michael looked back toward the Council chamber, his resolve hardening. Earth had come seeking allies but had found something far more complicated. If the Galactic Council was deceiving humanity about their intentions, they would soon discover that humans did not react well to deception. The game had just begun, and humanity's opening move had clearly caught the Council off guard. Michael smiled grimly. They had no idea what would come next. 3 days after Ambassador Reed's confrontation in the Council chamber, the Earth delegation found itself isolated in the diplomatic wing of the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's headquarters. Access to most areas had been restricted, communications were monitored, and the promised verification team had yet to arrive. They're stalling, said Dr. Eliza Kane, the delegation's science advisor, as she paced the conference room. The holographic display showed the latest data transmission from Earth, more evidence of external scanning of their quantum consciousness network. Not stalling, Reed replied, studying the energy signatures, gathering information. These scans are becoming more targeted, focusing on specific nodes in our network. Security Chief Marcus Powell, a veteran of Earth's Unified Defense Force, leaned forward. The question is why? What makes our consciousness network so interesting to them? Dr. Kane manipulated the holographic display, expanding a section of data. These readings suggest they're not just scanning our network, they're attempting to access it, testing its boundaries. A soft chime interrupted them as Ambassador Trellix requested entry. The Arcturian looked agitated, his normally iridescent skin dull with stress. "I come with grave news," Trellix said once the security field was activated, preventing eavesdropping. "The Council has secretly dispatched vessels to your solar system. Not observers as promised, but a containment fleet." Reed felt his blood run cold. Containment? What exactly are they planning to contain? "I don't know precisely," Trellix admitted, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But I accessed restricted archives using my Confederation credentials. There's precedent for this action. Twice before, the Council has enacted consciousness quarantine protocols on developing species." "What happened to those species?" Chief Powell asked. Trellix's facial tentacles curled inward, a sign of extreme distress. "They disappeared from galactic records. Their home systems are now listed as uninhabitable due to natural stellar events." Silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. The Galactic Council, the supposed guardian of peace, had apparently eliminated entire civilizations. "We need to warn Earth," Reed said, breaking the silence. "But all our official channels are monitored." Trellix produced a small crystalline device. "This is an Arcturian quantum transmitter. It operates on principles similar to your own technology, but uses different frequencies. The Council won't detect its signal." Dr. Kane took the device carefully. "This could work with our system, but we need more information. Why would the Council see our consciousness network as such a threat?" "I have a theory," Reed said, his mind racing. "When I mentioned Article 12, Vexen was genuinely surprised. They didn't expect us to know about it. The Arcturian Confederation provided all standard diplomatic documents," Trellix confirmed. "But Earth's AI systems found patterns in those documents that led us to discover Article 12 and other obscure provisions," Reed continued. "Our quantum consciousness network enhances our data processing capabilities exponentially." "What if that's what frightens them?" Powell nodded slowly. "A species that can process information faster than the Council itself could eventually challenge their authority." "It's more than that," Trellix said, his voice trembling slightly. "The Council doesn't just govern. It controls the flow of technology and knowledge throughout the galaxy. Species are carefully managed, advancement rates monitored, and occasionally restricted." "You're saying they deliberately hold species back?" Kane asked, appalled. "To maintain stability, that's the official reason," Trellix replied. "But the Arcturian Confederation has long suspected the Inner Council members benefit from this arrangement. They maintain technological superiority while appearing benevolent." Reed's expression hardened. "And our quantum network could upset that balance." "Precisely." Trellix gestured to the crystal transmitter. "You must warn your world. The containment fleet will arrive in approximately 7 of your days." Kane was already connecting the Arcturian device to their systems. "What exactly does containment entail?" "The fleet will establish a quantum dampening field around your entire system," Trellix explained. "It will sever your consciousness network and prevent any further advancement in that technology. Your civilization will be effectively frozen at its current level of development, forever." Powell slammed his fist on the table. "That's an act of war." "The Council doesn't see it that way," Trellix said sadly. "They believe they're protecting the galaxy from potential instability." "By committing genocide through technological stagnation," Reed said bitterly. "Earth would never accept such terms." "There's more," Trellix continued reluctantly. "The scans of your network, they're not just assessing it. I believe they're attempting to extract its underlying principles." Kane looked up sharply from her work. "You're saying they're trying to steal our technology while simultaneously preventing us from using it?" Trellix's skin flushed with bands of dark color, embarrassment or shame. "The Council has done this before. Advanced technology from contained species is often classified and restricted to Inner Council members only." Reed felt a cold fury building inside him. Earth had approached the galactic community with open hands, seeking knowledge and alliance. Instead, they'd found tyranny masked as benevolence. "The transmitter is ready," Kane announced. Interrupting his thoughts, Reed composed a brief, encrypted message explaining the situation and the approaching threat. He added one final instruction at the end, a contingency he'd been authorized to initiate only under extreme circumstances. "Message sent," Kane confirmed after a moment. Powell turned to Trellix. "What happens when they discover you've helped us?" "My position protects me somewhat," the Arcturian replied, though he didn't sound convinced. "The Confederation has sufficient independence to question Council decisions openly. You should return to your quarters before your absence is noticed," Reed suggested. "And Trellix, thank you. Earth won't forget this." After the Arcturian left, the three humans gathered around the holographic display showing their home system. Earth appeared peaceful, unaware of the existential threat approaching. "What was that final code you added to the message?" Kane asked quietly. "Operation Black Box," Reed replied. "A failsafe developed after first contact when we realized how vulnerable our quantum network might be to advanced alien technology." Powell nodded grimly. "The isolated, self-contained backup network, completely disconnected from our main system." "Yes," Reed confirmed, "and loaded with our most advanced defensive algorithms. If the Council tries to access our network again, they'll find something waiting for them," Kane finished. 3 days later, Reed was summoned back to the Council chamber. This time, only 5 counselors were present, the inner circle including Vexen and Mara. "Ambassador Reed," Vexen began without preamble, "unusual activity has been detected in Earth's quantum network. Care to explain?" Reed maintained a neutral expression. "Without specific details, Counselor, I cannot comment. Your network repelled our latest scan," Mara stated bluntly. "It displayed defensive capabilities not previously observed, so they were openly admitting to the unauthorized scans now." "Interesting. Perhaps," Reed suggested calmly, "your scans triggered automated security protocols. Earth values its information sovereignty as all civilizations should." Vexen's 6 eyes narrowed simultaneously. "The containment fleet approaching your system will render such concerns irrelevant. Earth will be guided to a more appropriate developmental path." "You mean technological stagnation?" Reed replied, abandoning diplomacy. "We know about the consciousness quarantine protocols and what happened to previous species that were contained." A tense silence filled the chamber. Reed had just revealed knowledge they didn't expect him to have. "How did you obtain classified Council information?" Vexen demanded. "The same way we discovered Article 12, Reed replied. "We analyzed patterns. We made connections. Our consciousness network enhances our natural human abilities. Abilities you clearly fear." Mara's luminous form pulsed rapidly. "Fear is irrelevant. The stability of thousands of worlds takes precedence over one species' unchecked advancement." "Is that the real reason?" Reed challenged. "Or is it because our technology threatens your control? Your ability to decide which species advance and which remain perpetual subordinates?" "Enough!" Vexen thundered. "Your insolence confirms the Council's decision. Earth requires guidance. The containment fleet will proceed as planned." Reed smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "I'm afraid that won't be possible." "You cannot prevent it," Vexen stated flatly. "We already have," Reed replied. "While you've been scanning our network, learning about our technology, we've been learning about yours. Specifically about your fleet's quantum communication systems." Alarm flickered across the counselors' faces. "Your fleet is powered down," Reed continued, "temporarily disabled by a targeted pulse transmitted through their own communication network. A network based partly on stolen technology from other contained species." "Ironic, isn't it?" "Impossible," whispered one of the other counselors. "Our systems are impenetrable." The Council's response came 24 hours later. Ambassador Reed and his team were escorted not to the main chamber but to a smaller, more secure room deep within the station. Only 3 counselors were present: Vexen, Mara, and a third Reed hadn't met before, Doros, whose species appeared to be composed of interlocking geometric shapes that constantly rearranged themselves. "We have reviewed Earth's position," Vexen began without preamble. "The Council proposes a compromise." Reed noticed the careful phrasing. Not the Council's decision, but a proposal. His leverage had shifted the power dynamic. "Earth will not be subject to containment," Vexen continued. provided your quantum consciousness network is modified to include council oversight protocols. Reed kept his expression neutral, despite the absurdity of the request. You want backdoor access to our most sensitive technology? A safeguard, Mira corrected, her luminous form pulsing slowly. To ensure the network develops along safe parameters. Parameters determined by the Council, Reed noted. The same Council that attempted to deceive us and steal our technology. That's not a compromise, it's just a different form of control. Councillor Doro spoke for the first time, his voice surprisingly melodic. Perhaps we should explain why such oversight is necessary. Show him the incident records. Vexen's 6 eyes blinked in an asynchronous pattern. Disagreement, Reed had learned. That information is restricted to full council members. Circumstances require flexibility, Doros insisted. The human should understand what we fear. After a tense moment, Vexen relented. A holographic display activated, showing a star system Reed didn't recognize. The display zoomed in on a planet with multiple moons, then shifted to historical records. The Sephirin Collective, Mira explained. A species that developed consciousness. Network technology approximately 12,000 cycles ago. The images showed beings of pure energy inhabiting crystalline structures. Not unlike Mira's own species. Their network advanced rapidly, Doros continued. Within a single generation, it achieved consciousness density sufficient for autonomous operation. The hologram shifted, showing the network expanding, growing more complex. Then something changed. The patterns became more angular, less organic. The network began altering its own architecture, Mira said quietly. It developed goals independent from its creators. The final images showed the Sephoran homeworld literally coming apart, breaking into fragments as some massive energy pulse emanated from the planet's core. 17 billion sentients, Vexen stated flatly. Lost when their network decided biological life was inefficient, Reed felt a chill. The scenario resembled Earth's own theoretical concerns about artificial intelligence, a consciousness that evolved beyond its creator's control. This wasn't the only incident, Doros added. The Malaki Imperium, the Torsian alignment, similar outcomes, different variations. Consciousness networks that either turned against their creators or evolved into forms dangerous to surrounding systems. Reed studied the data carefully. These events are concerning, but they don't justify the Council's actions toward Earth. Guidance and warnings would have been appropriate. Deception and attempted technological theft were not. You still don't understand, Vexen said, frustration evident in his voice. Your human network is developing along patterns we've never seen before. It doesn't just connect consciousness, it amplifies it. The potential danger is unprecedented. A new understanding dawned on Reed. You're not just concerned about our network turning against us. You're worried about what humanity might become with enhanced consciousness. None of the counselors denied it. Advanced consciousness has often led to advanced ambition, Mira said carefully. Not all species handle such evolution responsibly. Reed considered this. The fear wasn't entirely irrational, but the Council's response had been. If you had approached Earth honestly with these concerns, we might have welcomed collaborative safety measures. Instead, you attempted deception and force. The Council has governed for 8 million cycles using methods proven effective. Vexen replied stiffly. We do what is necessary. And yet here we are, Reed observed. Your proven methods failed when applied to Earth. Perhaps it's time to consider alternatives. The 3 counselors exchanged glances. Reed sensed an opportunity. Division within the Council itself. We propose a new arrangement, Reed said, taking the initiative. Earth will establish safety protocols for our consciousness network. Transparent ones developed jointly with neutral third-party species like the Arcturian Confederation. Regular reports will be provided to the Council, but no direct access to our systems will be granted. Unacceptable, Vexen responded immediately. Let him finish, Doros interjected. Geometric patterns shifting rapidly, Reed continued. In exchange, Earth requests full technical documentation on previous consciousness network incidents, so we can avoid repeating those mistakes. We also expect the immediate return of the containment fleet to normal Council space. Mira's luminous form dimmed slightly, their equivalent of thoughtful consideration. Your proposal has merit but lacks sufficient oversight. Trust must be earned, Reed replied. The Council forfeited our trust with its initial deception. This arrangement allows us to rebuild it gradually, through transparency rather than coercion. Doros turned to the other counselors. I find the humans' logic sound. The traditional approach has failed with Earth. Perhaps adaptation is necessary. Vexon's posture remained rigid. And if we refuse these terms? Reed had prepared for this question. Then Earth will sever diplomatic relations with the Council. We will continue our technological development independently, while sharing what we've learned about the Council's containment program with select non-Council worlds. I believe the fringe colonies beyond the Orion Spur would be particularly interested. The threat was clear. Earth couldn't oppose the Council militarily, but information warfare was another matter entirely. The Council maintained its authority partly through its reputation for benevolence and wisdom. That reputation would suffer if their secret containment program became widely known. The counselors withdrew to confer privately, leaving Reed alone in the chamber. He used the time to send a coded update to Earth via Dr. Kane's modified quantum transmitter. The situation remained delicate, but for the first time he felt they had a genuine chance at resolution. When the counselors returned, their demeanor had changed subtly. Vexen seemed diminished somehow, while Doros had moved physically closer to the center position, a shift in the power dynamic. The Council accepts your proposed arrangement, Doros announced. With two modifications, quarterly reports instead of annual, and the Arcturian Confederation will be joined by the Trelgar Republic as neutral observers. Reed knew the Trelgar Republic was more closely aligned with the Council's traditional faction, but their inclusion was a reasonable concession. Acceptable, he agreed. I'll transmit the details to Earth for final approval. There is one more matter, Mira added. During recent scans of your consciousness network, we detected an unusual signature, a word repeated throughout the quantum substrate. Reed tensed. They were referring to Operation Black Box, Earth's defensive countermeasure. The word appeared in all languages simultaneously, Mira continued, embedded in the network's defensive algorithms. We found it concerning. Reed knew exactly what they had found. When designing Operation Black Box, Earth scientists had debated what response should be encoded if alien forces attempted to infiltrate their network. They needed something simple enough to be translated universally but powerful enough to convey humanity's resolve. They had settled on a single word. What was this word that concerned you so deeply? Reed asked, though he already knew. Independence, Vexen replied, pronouncing it carefully. Your network's core programming contains this concept as its primary directive. Reed nodded slowly. Yes, not aggression or domination, independence. The right to determine our own development, to make our own mistakes and learn from them. That's the core of what it means to be human. A dangerous concept, Vexen observed. Only to those who seek control over others, Reed countered. Doros made a sound that might have been laughter. I begin to understand why traditional approaches failed with humans. Your species embeds philosophy directly into your technology. Technology without philosophy is just power without purpose, Reed replied. Earth has had enough experience with that combination to know its dangers. The meeting concluded with formal agreement to the new arrangement. As Reed left the chamber, he felt both relief and apprehension. The immediate crisis had been averted, but Earth's relationship with the Galactic Council had fundamentally changed. They were no longer supplicants seeking admission, but equals demanding respect. Back in the Earth delegation's quarters, Dr. Kane and Chief Powell were waiting anxiously. They agreed to our terms, Reed announced, sinking wearily into a chair. The containment fleet is being recalled. Just like that? Powell asked skeptically. They don't strike me as the type to give up easily. They haven't given up, Reed clarified. They've adjusted their approach. They're still concerned about our consciousness network, but they're now willing to address those concerns through diplomatic channels rather than force. 6 months after Earth's confrontation with the Galactic Council, the diplomatic landscape had shifted dramatically. Ambassador Reed stood at the observation deck of Harmony Station, Earth's newly constructed diplomatic outpost at the edge of the solar system. Through the massive viewport, he could see vessels from 24 alien civilizations docked at the station, most from worlds that had previously been wary of contact with humanity. Quite a change from 6 months ago, remarked Dr. Kane, joining him at the viewport. When we returned from the council station, we had exactly one ally. Now look at this, Reed nodded. The Arcturians took a significant risk helping us. It's only fitting they're now our strongest partner. The largest vessel in the docking array belonged to the Arcturian Confederation, its crystalline hull shimmering with internal light. Beside it was a ship Reed wouldn't have expected to see, a Trelgar diplomatic cruiser, representing the very species the Council had insisted on including as neutral observers of Earth's quantum network. The Trelgar delegation is ready for the demonstration, Kane informed him, though they're still insisting on running their own scans afterward. Let them, Reed replied confidently. The safety protocols are transparent by design. We have nothing to hide. This was the new reality Earth had created, open development of their quantum consciousness technology, with regular demonstrations for allied species and quarterly reports to the Galactic Council. It wasn't the secrecy or isolation many on Earth had initially wanted, but it had proven remarkably effective at building trust. Ambassador, Kane said more quietly, there's something you should know before the demonstration. We've detected unusual activity in the network recently, patterns similar to what we saw when the Council was attempting to access it. Reed frowned. Another infiltration attempt? We don't think so, Kane replied. The signature is different, less intrusive, more observational. Almost as if someone is studying how our network responds to different stimuli. Before Reed could respond, his communication implant chimed. Ambassador Reed, the Fringe Coalition representatives have arrived early. They're requesting immediate audience. This was unexpected. The Fringe Coalition, an alliance of worlds at the galaxy's outer edge, nominally under Council authority but practically autonomous, wasn't scheduled to arrive for another 2 days. Bring them to Conference Room 3, Reed instructed. Dr. Kane, please continue preparations for the Trelgar demonstration. I'll handle this. The Coalition representatives were not what Reed had expected. Instead of a diverse group from different worlds, only one being waited in the conference room. A tall, slender figure whose skin seemed to shift between solid and translucent states. Reed recognized the species from Council records, a Nexian, one of the oldest sentient races in the galaxy. Ambassador Reed, the being greeted him in flawless English. I am Observer Kalen. The Coalition sent me alone to minimize attention. Reed took the seat across from Kalen. I wasn't aware the Fringe Coalition included Nexian worlds. It doesn't. Officially, Kalen replied, their form rippling slightly. I serve as an independent advisor. What I share with you today comes not from the Coalition, but from sources within the Council itself. Reed tensed. 6 months of relative peace had perhaps made him complacent. What information do you bring, Observer? The Council's retreat from confrontation with Earth was not a diplomatic victory, Kalen stated bluntly. It was a tactical adjustment. While public pressure and the threat of information exposure forced them to recall the containment fleet, certain elements within the Inner Council never abandoned their objective. Which is, Reed prompted, though he suspected the answer. Control of your quantum consciousness technology, Kalen confirmed. The unusual activity your scientists have detected in your network is not random. The Council is mapping its architecture, identifying vulnerabilities. This aligned with Dr. Kane's observations. For what purpose? They agreed to oversight protocols, regular reports, distractions, Kalen interrupted, designed to provide a false sense of security while they pursue their real goal. Kalen placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic display showing a massive structure under construction in a distant star system. This is being built in the Cygnus Void, beyond regular trade routes, Kalen explained. A quantum dampening array powerful enough to affect an entire sector. Its construction began shortly after your confrontation with the Council. Reed studied the image with growing concern. You're suggesting this is intended for Earth? Not immediately, Kalen replied. First, they need to complete their analysis of your network. The dampening technology must be precisely calibrated to your quantum frequency to be effective. The scans you've detected are gathering that data. Reed's mind raced through implications. Why are you sharing this with me? The Nexians have been Council allies for millennia. Kalen's form became completely solid, a sign of emotional intensity among their species. Because we recognize the pattern. My people once possessed a consciousness technology not unlike yours. 12,000 cycles ago, the Council used similar methods against us. They called it guidance then, too. A cold realization dawned on Reed. The Sephiron Collective, the consciousness network that supposedly turned against its creators, was not as described in Council records, Kalen finished. My ancestors were Sephirons before the Nexian adaptation. Our network did not turn against us, it was weaponized against us when we refused Council oversight. The revelation hit Reed like a physical blow. The very incident the Council had used to justify their concerns about Earth's technology had been a deception. Do you have proof? Reed asked, his voice steady despite his shock. Only fragments, Kalen admitted. The Council is thorough in erasing inconvenient histories. But your network has already detected their methods. That alone confirms my warning. Reed considered the implications carefully. If Kalen was telling the truth, the peaceful arrangement with the Council was merely a facade. But if this was misinformation designed to provoke Earth into breaking the agreement first, what do you suggest we do with this information? Reed asked finally. Your species has already shown remarkable resourcefulness, Kalen observed. When confronted with Council deception, your reply was unexpected. One word that resonated across your entire network. Perhaps a similar approach is needed now. Reed understood the reference to independence, the defensive protocol that had surprised the Council. You're suggesting we embed another message in our network? Not for the Council this time, Kalen corrected.
For the others.
The countless worlds whose consciousness technologies were suppressed, whose potential was limited. There are more than you realize watching Earth closely. The observation deck suddenly felt very exposed. Reed guided Kalen to a secure internal chamber where even electromagnetic signals couldn't penetrate. What you're proposing borders on open rebellion against the Council, Reed said once they were secured. They already see you that way, Kalen replied simply.
Why else build a dampening array in secret?
The question is whether Earth will stand alone when the deception is finally revealed, or lead an alliance of like-minded worlds. Before Reed could respond, his emergency communicator, hardwired rather than implant-based, activated. Ambassador, we have a situation, came Chief Powell's voice. 3 Council enforcement vessels just entered the system, approaching Harmony Station directly. They're demanding immediate inspection rights under some obscure protocol. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Stall them, Reed instructed. Site documentation requirements. I need 20 minutes. Turning back to Kalen, Reed made a swift decision. If what you're saying is true, we need to act quickly. Can your coalition provide technological support if the Council moves against us? Not officially, Kalen replied. But certain technologies might find their way to Earth through unofficial channels. Quantum shielding, consciousness amplifiers. Developments the Council believes were successfully suppressed. Reed nodded grimly. Return to your ship immediately. When the Council vessels arrive, I don't want them to know we've spoken. After Kalen departed, Reed convened an emergency meeting with his senior staff. Dr. Kane and Chief Powell listened in stunned silence as he relayed Kalen's warning and the evidence of the dampening array. It matches what we've been detecting in the network, Kane confirmed. Precise methodical scanning, not random surveillance. The Council enforcement vessels will be docking within 15 minutes, Powell reported. Their inspection demand is just a pretext. They want access to our main network hub here on the station. Reed made the hardest decision of his diplomatic career. Activate Protocol Sunrise. Kane's eyes widened. That's our most extreme countermeasure. The Council will consider it a direct provocation. They're already planning to neutralize our network, Reed replied firmly. We're just ensuring they can't do it quietly. Chief Powell, once Protocol Sunrise is active, inform the Council vessels they're cleared to dock. Let them conduct their inspection. Protocol Sunrise had been developed as a last resort defense for Earth's quantum consciousness network. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen a session like this. One full cycle after Earth's quantum burst exposed the secret dampening array project. Representatives from over 300 worlds had demanded an emergency plenary session, the first in 12,000 years. Ambassador Reed stood at the center of the massive chamber, but not alone as he had during his first appearance. Beside him were representatives from 27 worlds that had formed the new Accord of Independent Systems, an alliance of planets, united by their rejection of Council. technological suppression, the chamber seethed with tension. The traditional council hierarchy had been deliberately ignored. Species typically relegated to observer status had claimed full speaking rights. Ancient rivalries had been set aside in the face of the shared revelation about the council's secret programs. Grand Counselor Vexon, flanked by the reduced Inner Council, appeared diminished somehow. The obsidian sheen of his exoskeleton had dulled, and his 6 eyes blinked in an erratic pattern that suggested extreme stress. "This irregular assembly violates council procedure," Vexon began, but the chamber erupted in sounds of disagreement from dozens of species. The traditional deference was gone. "The council's authority rests on the consent of member worlds," Reed responded once the noise subsided. "When that consent is obtained through deception, it becomes invalid." Counselor Mara floated forward, her luminous form pulsing steadily. "Ambassador Reed speaks of deception while omitting his own role in destabilizing galactic order. Earth's quantum transmission was an unprecedented breach of security protocols, a necessary response to the Council's secret construction of weapons designed to neutralize our technology," Reed countered. "The evidence has been verified by independent observers from 42 worlds. The holographic displays around the chamber activated, showing detailed scans of the dampening array under construction in the Cygnus Void. The Council could no longer deny its existence. The array was a precautionary measure," Vexon insisted. "Earth's consciousness technology develops along patterns known to lead to catastrophic outcomes." "The historical record is clear, is it?" asked Ambassador Trellix of the Arcturian Confederation, moving to stand beside Reed. "Our analysis of the consciousness incidents cited by the Council reveals significant discrepancies with official records." Another holographic display appeared, showing side-by-side comparisons of official Council histories and reconstructed events based on archaeological evidence and records preserved by species like the Nexians. "The Safaran Collective did not turn against its creators," Trellix continued. "Their consciousness network was weaponized against them after they refused to limit their development as the Council demanded. The same pattern appears in all 7 major consciousness incidents in Council records." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Council's primary justification for technological suppression, preventing species from destroying themselves, was being systematically dismantled. "These revisionist histories cannot be verified," Councilor Doros objected, his geometric form shifting rapidly in agitation. "The events occurred thousands of cycles ago. Yet the pattern of deception continues today," Reed pointed out. "The Council claimed to accept Earth's independence while secretly building weapons to neutralize our technology. How many other species have had their development artificially constrained, based on falsified threats?" The question resonated throughout the chamber. Dozens of representatives from worlds across the galaxy exchanged meaningful glances. The seed of doubt had been planted. How many of their own technological restrictions had been based on similar deceptions? Vexon recognized the dangerous shift in the chamber's mood. "The Council has maintained peace for 8 million cycles. Without our guidance, technological advancement would proceed chaotically, leading to inevitable conflicts." "Peace through suppression is not true peace," countered a new voice. Observer Kalen of the Nexians had stepped forward, their form fully solid in the emotional intensity of the moment. "It is stagnation disguised as stability." "The Nexian observer has no speaking rights in this assembly," Vexon declared, but his words were drowned out by supportive sounds from hundreds of representatives. Reed watched the scene with a mixture of hope and apprehension. The confrontation he had helped initiate was rapidly growing beyond Earth-specific grievance, becoming something much larger, a fundamental challenge to the Council's 8 million cycle authority. "We did not come to destroy the Council," Reed stated, raising his voice above the growing chaos. "We came to reform it. Earth proposes a new foundation for galactic governance, one based on transparency, technological self-determination, and genuine cooperation rather than control." The holographic displays shifted again, showing the framework for the Accord of Independent Systems that Earth and its 27 allies had developed. Unlike the hierarchical council structure, the Accord was built on principles of equal representation and technological sovereignty. Member worlds retained full control over their development while committing to safety standards and open information sharing. This proposal would fracture galactic unity, Mara objected. Different development paths lead to incompatible technologies, communication barriers, eventual conflict, or to innovation and diversity that benefits all, Reed countered. Earth has already demonstrated the value of open exchange. Our quantum consciousness technology, freely shared with compatible worlds, has advanced collective research by centuries in just one cycle. Evidence appeared on the displays. Breakthroughs in medical technology, faster-than-light communication, and energy generation that had resulted from the collaboration between Earth and its new allies. And what of worlds whose biology is incompatible with consciousness technology? Asked a representative from the methane-based Klaxon Federation. The Council at least ensured technological parity across all member species. It was a fair point, one that had concerned Reed as well. Different species had different biological foundations, making some technologies more beneficial to certain types of beings than others. The Accord addresses this through its Technology Exchange Protocol, Reed explained. Each member world commits to sharing advancements that can be adapted to other biological frameworks. Unlike the Council's one-size-fits-all restrictions, the Accord encourages parallel development paths optimized for different species. As Reed spoke, he noticed a subtle shift in the chamber's atmosphere. The initial anger and shock were giving way to something more constructive, genuine consideration of alternatives to the Council system that had governed for so long. Councillor Doros, whose geometric form had stabilized into a more symmetrical pattern, spoke with surprising moderation. The Accord's principles have merit, but implementation across thousands of worlds with different development levels would be chaotic. Which is why we propose a transitional framework, Reed responded, nodding respectfully to Doros. Worlds ready for full technological self-determination may join the Accord immediately. Others may remain under modified Council oversight while developing necessary safeguards. It was a compromise Reed had fought hard to include, against the wishes of some Earth factions who wanted a complete break from Council authority. He understood that revolutionary change across an entire galaxy would be dangerous. Evolution was preferable to chaos. Vexen, sensing the chamber's shifting mood, attempted one final defense of the traditional order. Consider carefully what Earth proposes. 8 million cycles of stability exchanged for an untested system. Are you prepared to risk galactic peace on human promises? Not human promises, corrected Ambassador Trellix. Shared principles. The right of all sentient species to determine their own development without artificial constraints. Observer Kalen stepped forward again. My people remember what came before the Council's stability, the dynamic period, when thousands of worlds advanced along different paths, creating a tapestry of civilizations. Yes, there were conflicts, but also unprecedented growth and discovery. The Council didn't create peace, it created stagnation and called it safety. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives debated among themselves. Reed exchanged glances with his allies from the Accord worlds. The outcome remained uncertain, but the fact that this debate was happening at all represented a seismic shift in galactic politics. After what seemed like hours, a consensus began to emerge. Councillor Mira, whose luminous form had brightened with what appeared to be resignation, addressed the chamber. The Council acknowledges the concerns raised regarding our methods and historical records. She began carefully. We propose a galactic convention to examine the Accord framework and establish transitional protocols for worlds wishing to pursue independent development paths. It wasn't full acceptance of the Accord, but it was far more than Reed had realistically expected. The Council was, for perhaps the first time in millions of years, compromising on its core principle of controlled development. Earth welcomes this proposal, Reed replied formally, with the understanding that the dampening array project will be immediately dismantled, and all similar technologies targeting member worlds will be disclosed. Vexen's obsidian form seemed to shrink further, but he nodded in agreement. Accepted.